Well, it will be everybody in a few minutes. If you're watching this after this episode has aired, well, you might be in for a nice little treat. I thought I would take the live stream side of YouTubing and think outside the box a little bit. And thinking outside the box, I'm just going to make sure this camera's it's adjusted perfectly. There you go. And I thought it would be a really nice idea to do something completely different that no other YouTuber has done before. I don't think anybody else will, to be honest, unless somebody else copies me. Well, it's not copyrighted, so you can go ahead and copy if you're a fellow YouTuber. Steve. Just hint on that one. So welcome to the Ford Focus Mk1 Christmas quiz. I thought as a generic live stream around Christmas, I thought I want to do something a little bit different, considering I've been incredibly busy recently in the last month or so, not with the cars, just in my personal private life, and I haven't had the time to even do an hour's live stream, to be honest. Anyway, I thought I would kickstart this off, and we have our first person, Nicholas. Well, greetings on Dorset. Greetings, Nicholas. Thank you. New name on the block. I have not noticed your name on the live streams before, and that tends to happen with my live streams. It tends to be so far apart from when I actually did my last live stream that we get a load of new people that I've never heard of before. So greetings and welcome to the channel, and I hope you enjoy this ridiculously I don't know what it is, this Christmas quiz. But I thought I would do something that would not only show, well, I know all the answers to these questions. That's not the idea of this quiz. It's so that you guys can probably learn something that you've never learnt before. Some people will know half the answers to these, and quite a few people won't. And there's no better way than actually increasing people's knowledge, particularly if you want to find out more about a Focus Mk1 in all sorts of intricate aspects. This may not just be a Christmas quiz. It might be a quiz that I might do every so often. It depends how good people feel that it is. Anyway, we have 9 people. Welcome to the live Christmas quiz. I am going to commence the quiz in a few minutes' time, and I'll start banging the questions away. Obviously, no winners in this. It's all like the taking part, but it's about increasing your knowledge. There are no awards, although I might be able to just give you an after 8 mint, but it would have to be pretend. But in any sense, that's what's going to keep me going for the next possibly hour and a half, maybe up to 2 hours. The Bellamy at Midnight. Hiya, matey. All the best of Christmas from Lancashire. Thank you to you too. Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to everybody. This will be the last probably time that I'm going to be seeing before Christmas and probably after. All the episodes that I have lined up, I have filmed about a month or so ago, because YouTubers tend to do all their Christmas episodes in November or before that maybe. So you might not see me for, again, another month or so before the next live stream. So we'd make the most of it. Anyway, happy Christmas. I hope that most of you are off work. Unless you tend to work in retail, you will most likely be off work now. Christmas is a weird time. I have just broken up from work because I work in a school and it's term time. Now it's finished. In my 13 years of work in a school in education, I've never broken up on the 22nd of December. It's the latest. Broke up on the 17th of December. That was way too early. It was like a whole week, over a week, Christmas Day, and then a few days, and boom, back to work. That was just absolutely rubbish. There was no sense of just enjoying Christmas, whereas now everybody's got prepared for Christmas. Couple of days, Monday, Christmas Day, and then you've got almost a full 2 weeks. I've got a full 2 weeks. I don't know about anybody else, probably not. But, you know, I'm quite lucky like that. But in the 2 weeks, I will be spending a lot of time with family and friends, and that's what it's all about. And maybe a few videos here and there. Anyway, I'm going to get this quiz underway, and there are no winners. just, if you've got your answer in your head, put it in the comments and don't copy what the other person's written. Think about it. But anyway, I hope that you're going to learn something from this and take something away. And do give yourself a mental score. Now, I have a Microsoft Word document with all these questions on. I don't know how many questions there are. I just kept thinking of interesting questions to ask. Some are obvious, some are not. And I can guarantee you're going to learn something by the end. Even if most of the questions you thought, oh, I knew that anyway, there will be few. There will be a few, I can assure you. And I might expand on some of the answers. I do like to talk, don't I? Anyway, let's get going. So, if I just get my little sheet up. So, yeah, please give yourself a score on what you got. Just keep a running tally of how many questions there are, because I haven't numbered how many questions there are. Actually, I think I should actually label them. 2 seconds. This is for your benefit. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 32, 34, 36, 37. Okay, there's about 40 odd questions here. So there could have been more questions, but I didn't want it to be ridiculously long. This live stream may only last for about an hour and a half, but then it could last for 2 hours, I don't know. Anyway, let's get going. The first question of the day, and this is something, if you've been paying attention to my own channel, what is the colour of my focus? What is the colour of my focus? No problem, buddy. No problem, Steve. Feel free to watch whenever you can. That's all right, buddy. So, what is the colour of my focus? Thank you, Jason. That is correct. Panther Black. And that was the only black colour that was sold on a Mark 1 Focus. And I believe it is, I think, the third most common colour. I think, well, possibly the second. Moondust Silver is the most common colour to see in Mark 1. Probably followed by Panther Black. And then it tends to be quite tight between all the other colours. Aquafrost is somewhere where sort of 3, 4, because that was sold until the facelift in 2001. No, Steve, it's not black, it's Panther Black. I'm only joking. I'm pretty sure you meant that. Panther Black was also offered on, I believe, the Mark 4 and Mark 5 Fiesta. Probably the Mark 5 Fiesta. Might be wrong. It might not have been a Mark 4 Fiesta colour. It might have been only a Mark 5 colour. But they offered Panther Black in the Mark 2 Focus, the Mark 3 Focus as well. That's where it kind of died a death, unfortunately. And then Ford started calling it black. Panther Black is a unique colour. It has a blue tinge to it. A very interesting blue tinge in the sunlight. Whereas Ford Black, that replaced it around, I think 2013, 14, 15, around that time. It's just black. It is just less characterful, but, you know. Mark 5 Fez. Okay. Thank you, Steve. And that's why I call it 50 Shades of Panther Black, because, well, it used to be 50 Shades of Panther Black. It's kind of like 1 or 2 shades off, but we'll get in there. Anyway, yes, the Puma was too. The Ford Puma had it. I think every Ford had the option of Panther Black, Mondeo's included. This is the second question. Who led the original design team? Who led the original design team? Not everybody knows that one, strangely enough, and it's quite remarkable. He has a massive career, and he worked at both Ford and Jaguar. Sharon, Panther Black. Panther Black. The Bellamy at Midnight, Richard Parry Jones. Well done. Give yourself a pat on the back. That is 2. Yeah, Richard Parry Jones, his career span beyond Ford, and he worked at Jaguar for a short time, but then that might have been under Ford ownership. But Steve, you forgot. That's dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Unfortunately, Richard Parry Jones is no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago, which is a crying shame, because of all the people that I might want to try and interview, and that might be happening with maybe one or two people that I've managed to locate from that time. Um, Sadly, that's not possible. But I'm pretty sure that he would love what's going on in the Mark 1 community and all the good things that are happening around the car. But yes, Richard Parry-Jones, a genius in his own right, and there are many car designers that you could probably aim that at. I mean, Michelotti was the famous Italian stylist, Sir Alex Isogonis was synonymous with the Mini, and Richard Parry-Jones with the Focus Mark 1. And he had his hand in many other cars too. That turned out to be a very big success. And of course, he's Welsh. What more can I say than that? What was the official development name for the Mark 1? What was the Mark 1 Focus called when it was in development? I may have mentioned that in one of my previous episodes. What was the official development name for the Mark 1? It is a code. No, actually it's not. Escort, to be honest. Escort was what they were going to call the car publicly. This is what it was named in the development of the car, and it would be a code. It wouldn't be a name. Yet it was the Escort. You are right, Bellamy at Midnight. It was supposed to be the Escort Mark 7 until they realised that this car is so radically different that we need a completely new name. But you are right. You are right. So I'll give you another 30 seconds and then we'll go with that. Most Fords have a code, which is what they were called during development, and that's what the car would have been known as before it was given its official publical name. Nobody? This is where the questions will get easier and then get a bit hard. So this is why you'll find out a few things. Three numbers, one letter and three numbers, if that's a clue. It starts with a letter and three numbers. A letter and three numbers. Okay, I'm going to step in here. It was called the C170. That's what the Focus was called, the C170. That was its code development name. So there you go. You know something new. Where, this is an important one, where and when was the Focus first revealed to the public? When and where was it first revealed to the public? We've got 11 people watching. Put your answers, guys, if you know, if you think you know that. Even if you're not sure, put it down, because I've got the message board on the right hand side. Have a little go. When and where was the Focus first revealed to the public? Some of these answers I didn't know myself, so I've learned something by just making up the questions. I must give it to people who are quiz masters who run pub quizzes. They must know. I mean, this is the ironic thing. Most people out there today having a pub quiz because it's just before Christmas. The pubs are booming. They want people in, and quite ironic that I'm doing this. Ooh, sorry, I've not gone. Was it in the UK? Sorry, Steve, I didn't see that last one. Yes, it was in the UK. Sorry, wrong. Ignore me on that one. It wasn't in the UK. It was the Geneva Motor Show. The Geneva Motor Show in March 1998. Germany. Is that what you meant, Luke? Thanks for joining. Yes, it was a Geneva Motor Show, March 1998. That was when it was first revealed to the public, and there are many photographs on Google of what the first cars looked like. One of the main ones was Moondust Silver, 3 and 5 door. I think it was a 3 door. I think that was the main one they were showcasing. Quite interesting. And this is something that most of you will get. What was the design language called that they used on the Mark 1? What was the design language used? Ford always use a design language, or have done. I think the very recent cars don't really have a design language as such. The new edge, thank you Luke, correct. The new edge styling. It started pretty much with the Focus. Now the Ford Ka and the Mark IV Fiesta that came out was the oval badge, the oval styling. They weren't new edge. It was the Mark V Fiesta that took it on. The Mark I Focus was the first car to come out with the styling, and then the Mark V Fiesta followed suit. You had the Puma as well, and then the Mondeo followed as well, and the Mark VI Fiesta carried that on. It was only with the I believe the Mark II Focus and the Mark II.5 especially, where the new Ford Kinetic design replaced the new Edge design. And the Kinetic design language actually, I think, was brilliant, especially on the Mark II.5 Focus. What a walk. Merry Christmas, buddy. I'm just going to try and stop. Triangle? Jason, triangle, brilliant, utterly brilliant. Well, the Mark 1 is full of triangles. It was called the New Edge design, but it is full of triangles. You look at a Focus, I mean, even the side repeaters, the actual sway line on the front wings to go with it, it's all triangles. It's triangles and lines adjacent to each other. It's brilliant, utterly brilliant. That guy from Seat Alpha, thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas, and I hope you're okay, and thank you for joining us. Luke, Mark III Monday. It was on the Mark III Mondeo as well, so the new design language spread around a bit. What award did the Focus win in 1999? What award did the Focus win in 1999? I hope you're keeping score. I've lost count already. Jason, car of the year. Right, so you're 90% correct. Luke, European car of the year. Done. You have got it to a T. Jason, you just missed the word European, but I'll give you the point for that one. So put the point up here. It won the European Car of the Year award in 1999. That is a difficult award to win. As an award, it started in 1969. 1969. Luke, you are correct. It was on the old Top Gear at the time, when it was before it was a bit of an entertainment show, when it was a bit of a newsreel show. The European Car of the Year is an award that started in 1963, and if you look at the winners of that award, you have got some great design cars, the greatest. My Rover P6 would have been a 1964 winner. There's an absolute number, and it still goes on today. It's still an award, and it's very competitive, and it still goes on. I think some of the specifications or criteria for the winners is a bit different these days, but to win that award is prestigious. It takes a lot. Now, yes, you are correct. The SD1 was the winner in 1977. It was a great design, that. Absolutely brilliant design, the SD1, 1977. Brilliant car. Designed by, designed by David Bache, who had a hand in the Rover P6 as well. So, good man. Does he? It won both US and European Car of the Year. Not sure if it was both the same year. I'm not quite sure about the US one. That's something that I might not be aware about, but you may have a point about that. So I'm going to look into that now. If anybody else knows if it won the US Car of the Year, I imagine it might have done. Shame about the rust quality. Unfortunately, yes. SD1's always enjoyed doing that, but then any car did, didn't they? SD1 was 20 years too early. I wouldn't say that. Because if you look, I had this conversation the other day. I'm not going to get distracted, but Rover 800, the Rover 800 that came out in 1986, 9 years later after the SD1, I think that was a much more modern car and made the SD1 look 20 years old at that stage. The Marsman car, there was more than 9 years difference between them. I think the SD1 was a design classic when it came out in 77 for all the features it gave. But after about 5 or 6 years, it started to look a bit long in the tooth for me. Anyway, let's get back on underpinning. The underpinnings, no, actually the underpinnings were quite good on the SD1. I'll come back to that at another time, actually. Yeah, the underpinnings were a bit aged in places, but actually it was quite a good platform. Old-fashioned in some ways. P6 had the Dion, correct. SD1 had conventional McPherson springs. I know, but they made it handle just as well. Anyway, let's get back on track. The next question is, the control blade rear suspension was a highly developed, excuse me, I'm going to word that again. This is poor quizmastering. The control blade rear suspension was highly developed from the rear suspension of what Ford? This is interesting because I didn't know this, but it does make sense. What car was the control blade rear suspension a highly developed version of? I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let the answers roll in, actually. Mondeo, Mark 1 Mondeo, Fiesta Mark 3. Okay, Mark 1 Mondeo is the correct answer. The Mark 1, Mark 2 Mondeo was the first car to use a very, pretty much dynamically the same suspension setup. It's different. The bottom arm is a bit thinner than on a Mark 1, and the train arm is a bit thicker, but at the same time, the control blade rear suspension was a improvement on the Mondeo Mark 1, Mark 2 suspension, independent suspension setup. Adam, evening buddy, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much for joining. That guy from Ceta Alpha 5, Fiesta Mark 3, torsion beam. It's not independent, completely different, but good try at the answer. You weren't far off, actually, to be fair. No, the Mark 1 Mondeo is the first car to use a proper independent setup. The Mark 4 Escort had an independent setup, which they ditched the Mark 5, which was why I don't think Mark 5s are that good. But that was a very conventional suspension setup, and very different indeed. Anyway, let's get on with the next one. So, what is the standard factory maximum torque of the TDCi engine? Stop Googling. Stop using your phone. Phones are not allowed. I can hear people going, hold on. What is the standard factory maximum torque of the TDCi engine? Torque. It's torque, Luke, not brake horsepower. You got it. Actually, that's not correct because there's more than 90 in the TDCi. Torque. If I did horsepower, people would get the answer right. Pass, no idea. That's all right. That's no problem. Anybody else? And I'll tell you the answer in 10 seconds. It's quite a bit because it's a diesel. 150. Go up. 220. 220 newton meters of torque. Quite a bit. Very punchy, very healthy. No idea. Have the TDDI and don't know that either. Was that one of the questions? We might come to that. Bear with a second. No, I don't think it is actually. I'll find out about that one. Somebody Google that up. TDDI maximum torque. Adam, if you're watching this, let me know. because you'll have an idea. How many UK limited edition models were made? That's not including the RS. I'm not including the RS. It was a model in its own right. How many UK limited edition models were made? In America, there was honestly huge amounts. You had the Sony edition, you had the Coney edition, all sorts of editions over there. I've lost track. It was more than the UK. 14, 12, wild guess 7. The correct answer, Jason, give yourself a point. 12. There were 12 Mark 1 special limited editions. Thank you for trying, Adam. Just a few too many. 12. Not far off, though. I bet somebody was like, quick, get my numbers. Trust me. No phones. No phones are allowed. No phones. By the way, the limited editions, that does not include Flight and Edge, because they were run-out models. They shouldn't really be classed as special limited editions because they had a long production period. They weren't actually limited editions. That's actually wrong. They were just editions. They were made alongside the CL, LX, CTEC and gear specifications. It was just to encourage. It was just, the Flight was an LX and the Edge was a ZTEC with a new badge and slightly different trim. That's it. Now, I'm going to name, actually, the truth is, I've actually given you the answer to the next question, but you can answer it. Name the 2 run-out edition models. I won't make a very good quiz master. I don't know why I put that question next, but I might as well ask it. Because I've just given you the answer. Black Ebony Flight Edge collection, probably a load of others. The Ebony, Ink, MP3, Millennium, Silver, Chick. You get the picture. Thank you, Flight and Edge. Yeah, because I gave you the answer. That was really silly. I actually hadn't looked at the question below. That was very rookie. I'll do that again one time. Anyway, they were edition. They weren't limited. You could order. There wasn't an infinite supply. Anyway, in a recent video that I did on the Mark 1 top 20 common faults for the people who were paying attention, which one was the number 1 fault? What was the number 1 fault? And everybody's going on their phones. I don't know what it was. I've got to find that now. Naughty, naughty. Which one was the number 1? Not rust. Right, the thing is about that video, I didn't mention rust because, quite frankly, rust and cars tend to go together like, apples and pears. I didn't really want to include that in the top 20. I wanted it to be something different because we know about rust. It's the stuff that people actually don't look at because they're concentrating always on the bodywork, which is good. Radio, no. Wiper scuttle. Electrical, speedo. It was the pollen filter scuttle seal issue. Wiper scuttle, Jason, if that's what you meant, I'll give you half a point for that, for mentioning half of the answer. But it is the pollen filter scuttle seal that is missing, not boot leaks. The reason that I didn't include that in that video is because I forgot. That was shocking. How can I forget boot leaks? The truth is, because my focus is in the garage, I have forgotten they have boot leaks. But the thing is, it's not really a common fault of a Mark 1 to have a boot leak. I would very much argue that it's a standard feature because it's something that you just can't eliminate. They all have water leaks in the boot. I've never met a Focus without that complaint. If you don't think your Focus leaks in a boot, I dare you, leave your car out in a monsoon, check the boot after the monsoon's finished. Just saying. But there are plenty of ways of going about that. That's what I meant. Well done, Jason. I should probably fix the tow bar grommet on mine. I'm watching this and Furious Driving's live stream at the same time. Oh, brilliant. Lovely. Well, I can't compete with Furious Driving, can I? What is the name of the engine known as the Zetec SE? What is the historical denomination for the engine known as the Zetec SE? That's what it's printed on the cam cover. But it isn't a Zetec SE. It's just what Ford decided to slash on the cam cover. Luke, please tell me that was a sarcastic answer. Please tell me. Oh no, Luke, that's I'm a bit concerned, Luke. Oh dearie me. Duratec, Zeta, Sigma. Oh, we're getting mixed up here. Blacktop, Adam. Oh, we're getting mixed up here. Well, the correct answer, Dazzy, Sigma. It is a Ford Sigma engine. I do apologise if I didn't word that question correctly. Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I worded that question quite correctly, actually. Rust. No, it's definitely not called Rust. No, definitely not. Sorry, I think you've answered the following question. No, it's the Sigma. The Duratec was what the Sigma. Right. So in a Mark 1, the Ford Sigma is known as a Zetec SE. It may have been known as the Zetec S when it was launched in 1998, and then they added the E. I think the E is for economy or something really vague and weird. And then when it became the Mark II Focus, it was rebranded as the Duratec. Now, the Duratec on a Mark 1 is the old Zetec engine, which is a 1.82 litre. That's what it would have been branded as. The Duratec was the 2 litre engine that you found in an ST170. It's confusing. Ford really like to confuse people. But basically, the Zetec engine died a death when the Mark 1 finished production. It was the last car to use that engine. And therefore, Ford had to use the Duratec engine with the newest engine on the block, which was the Sigma, which was still, it was not that old an engine. Well, saying that, it'd been around 8 or 9 years, but it was still a very modern engine and many, many years life left in that. So the Duratec engine in the Mark II is a Sigma, but in a Mark 1 it's known as a Zetec SE. Confused. So am I. But it definitely wasn't a CVH, I can assure you of that. The CVH died a death a while ago. You can get those old 1.6s as EcoBoost as well. No. The 1.6 and the EcoBoost, the Sigma and the EcoBoost are two different engines. The Sigma carried on as a 1.6 to 2017-2018, and it would have been available as the 1.25 in the Ford Ka Plus and the Ford Fiesta Mark 7. The EcoBoost, it was a 1.5, or a 1 litre or 1.5. It wouldn't have been a 1.6. Two different engines, very much so. Main difference is direct injection in turbo. That's probably right, actually. Although direct injection was on a Sigma as well. Sigma was years before Mark 5 XR3i. Yes, it was. The Zetec and the Sigma are very similar engines. The Zetec came first, the Sigma followed a few years later. Mark II Focus had Zetecs. They did, but the Mark II Focus, in the Mark II Focus, it was branded as a Duratec. So there is a bit of a confusion there, but it's the same engine. A Zetec SE in a Mark 1 and a Duratec in the Mark 2, Mark 2.5, same engine. It's a Ford Sigma. My Mark 2 was at 05. Yeah, it would have had it, Luke. It would have had it. ST170 Fiesta Titanium X Mark 3 Focus used the 1.6 EcoBoost. Does it? I thought it was a 1.5. But it's not to be confused with the 1.6 Sigma. But that would have been quite underpowered. Well, it would have been known as the Duratec TI VCT. That's what it would be known as until 2018. That's what it was known as. Anyway, my question sheet has gone off. What year did the Ford Sigma, carrying on that theme, what year did the Ford Sigma engine begin production and in what car? What year did the Ford Sigma engine begin production and in what car? Avoid the EcoBoost. My Mark II was a 56 plate. It never let me down until the water pump went. That's usual with a bit of age. Luke, Mark IV Fezzi. Adam, 1995, Mark IV Fiesta in 1.25, 1.25. Mark V 6 Escort maybe, Fiesta. Well, Adam, spot on, perfect answer. It started in, well, and Luke as well, 1995 in the Fiesta Mark IV as the 1.25. Yep, first car to use that engine. And it only got up to the 1.6 when the Focus Mark 1 came out. So up to when the Focus came out, you could only get it as a 1.25 in the Fiesta Mark 4. Right. What is the very rare specification that was only applied to some of the earlier S and T Reg cars? What is the very rare specification that was only applied to some of the earlier S and T Reg cars? I'm sorry I've worded this incorrectly. When I mean specification, what feature that was absolutely unique to the early S and T Reg cars? It's a very unique feature, and I will give you a clue. Sunroof, no, sunroofs were available later on than a T-Reg, but that's not actually a bad, that's a good answer, that is. That's a very good answer. Cruise control, no, it was available way later on. Magnesium rocker cover, wheel trims, nope. Airbag delete. Adam Joe, well done for the answer. Airbag delete. You could delete the passenger airbag at a no-cost option and have a T-shelf. And it was only available on the S&T Reg. It disappeared early in 1999 as a feature. So well done for the answer. It is, I've never personally seen a Mark 1 Focus in the flesh with that delete. No doubt I will eventually. There might be one, but it'd probably be only one or two. So if you have a Focus Mark 1 with that feature, please preserve it, because that alone will get people looking at your car. How geeking weird is that? Furious Driving would love the T-shelf. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. What a lovely T-shelf it is. Oh, do you know what? Stuff the passenger airbag. If we're in an accident, have a cushion. I'm having a T-shelf. Absolutely ridiculous. But it does affect that curve of the dashboard going back. I think that curve just doesn't look right when it's got a dip in it with a little T-tray cubby there. So there you go. Well done, Adam Joe. You can give yourself a few points for that, because that was a very hard one and I didn't expect anyone to get that. What does TDDI stand for? What does TDDI stand for? The Bellamy at midnight. I should not repeat that comment. Naughty. Turbo diesel direct injection. Correct. Jason, problems. Not the right answer. Actually, Jason, not problems. In fact, I would say the answer is anti-problems, because there are very few problems. They just go on and on and on. It's the modulator, the ECU that sits on the pump that can cause a problem. Most reliable diesel engine ever made. I agree. Absolutely. The TDCI was more powerful, but tended to go through its injectors a bit. That's the only complaint. If you're prepared to replace some injectors now and again, the TDCI is perfect. There is a huge difference in refinement between the two engines. It's what you want. Can you live with a tractor that goes on forever, or something a bit more quieter that might need some TLC here and there? Next question. What month and year was the changeover to the facelift model? What month and year was the changeover to the facelift model? And mark 1.5. Transit Mark 6, yes, bulletproof, utterly. 51 plate, it would have been on a 51 plate. What month was it? Thank you, Adam. Correct answer, October 2001. That was the switchover. Although there were some pre-facelift cars that were sold way after October 2001. You may even get an O2 plate that's on a pre-facelift. The Mark 1 in the scrapyard that I did, the scrapyard video I did, the white estate, that may have been a police car, we reckon. But it was very, very late. I've never, up to that point, never seen a pre-facelift on an O2 plate. So there are some around on a later registration. 2001 May, October, just a little bit later than that. Name 5 key changes which were made on the changeover to the facelifted design. Now, I haven't set any answers to this. I've just got them in my head. So you guys can help each other. Name 5 changes that were made on the changeover to the facelift design. What changed? I think I can think of about 10, 20 different changes. Specifically, bumper and lights, what changed? Specifics. Sill covers. Deletion of sill covers, of which I hate. Fog lights at the front changed. They changed in design. They did. They went from circles to what I think is far better. If the I argue that the Mark 1 facelift should have been what the Mark 1 should have looked like from the start. The fog lights just integrate with the front grille in a straight line, exactly as a Mark 1 should be. Clear headlights, correct. Not completely clear though, because the indicators removed from the bumper into the headlight assemblies. It would have had alloys. It would have had alloys before. Jason, no, alloys were before. Indicators moved from the bumper to the headlights. LX went from wheel trims to alloy wheels. Correct. The LX went from wearing steelies with trims to having the old pre-facelift gear alloys. How about that? Steering wheel badge went massive. Nope. Nope. I'll tell you when that happened in a second. Carpets? Nope. Nope. No. Mainly the bumpers. The bumpers gained rubber protective mouldings on the back and the front. Fog lights, as we've said. Indicators in the front headlights. Mainly that. The deletion of sill covers. Anything else? Fact, I'm trying to think now myself. I thought there was more than a few. There was a few things that didn't carry on in the engine bay, but they're very, very subtle things. In the Mark 1, 1.4 and 1.6, the fuel hose, this is getting geeky, the fuel hose that takes fuel from the pump into the engine, there would be a little fuel valve, a silver fuel valve. It's a regulator valve, very basic one, that would sit on that rail. They deleted that on the facelift models. You won't find one. I don't think it's needed really. That's when they started cheapening. Black mouldings on the bumpers, correct. The steering wheel badge was changed in 2003. Thank you, Daz. The instrument cluster was updated. Excuse me. It is blasted mulled wine. It's non-alcoholic. It's nice, but it gives me gas. To LEDs. It was upgraded to LEDs around 2003. Not sure on the date though. Not sure on the date on crossover. But I do know it was changed around 2003. So mainly those things. There was a couple of others that I might have forgotten, but very subtle things indeed. But the main elements were the exterior. But there were a few things that they tweaked here and there. I think we may have covered it. Lights, yeah. I was actually trying to think. There was more than 5. There was about 10 things I thought of, and now I've gone blank. That's me. I'm supposed to know a lot about these cars, and now I've gone blank. Right, next question. But we've got 5, at least 5 there. Is the Ford Sigma 1.6 a short stroke or long stroke engine? Is it a short stroke or long stroke engine? There's good main differences between the two. Long stroke engines produce their power at higher RPMs. Short stroke are quite lazy engines. Short stroke. Interesting. Anybody else? I'm sure that people are Googling the stroke to, bore size, which is how you find out what. Luke, long. Jason, long. Adam, long. It is long stroke. Not by much. Not by much. The 1.6 Sigma has a bore of 79 millimeters and a stroke of 81.4 millimeters. Very geeky indeed. Long stroke it is, but only just. So the the Ford Sigma produces its peak power, I should say, at higher RPMs. You have to rev them. They are not low torquey sort of engines. That is what it is. But it's very close to being what they call a square engine. A square engine is where the bore and stroke are the same. It's neither short nor long stroke. It's exactly the same. Most engines tend to be very close to square engines because both short stroke and long stroke engines have advantages and disadvantages. And a lot of manufacturers just want to get close to a square engine as a compromise between both. Who engineered the World Rally Championship rally car? What was it? The WRC car. Yeah, I got that question wrong. Who engineered the WRC car? Capris and Capris are more my thing. Yeah, I know. Well, don't worry. That's something you may have learnt before. MS Sport Pro. Who? This is a person, not a company. Who engineered the WRC car? M Sport Pro Drive. Who? Not the company, the person. And it was mainly one person, strangely enough. You are correct in saying Pro Drive, but who engineered? That might take some Googling. Malcolm Wilson, Dave Richards? No. Right, I'm going to give you something. He's called Gunther Steiner. Gunther Steiner. He was the one who engineered the WRC rally car Pro Drive. So there you go. Bit of trivia there. What is the name of the seat fabric in a Z-Tech? It has a particular name. I can see people getting their brochures out at this very second. Malcolm Wilson. No, it definitely wasn't. But Malcolm Wilson wasn't. It's not a far answer, I can tell you. Comfy. Brilliant. I'll tell you something. You're the first person to say that because I consider Mark 1 seats to be on the firm side of things. They're certainly not as comfortable as what had come before. Absolutely not. It's old jeans. That's a good one. If I ask the question of where the materials actually came from, that's a good answer and it's a correct answer because it's recycled old jeans. The materials for the seat fabrics were recycled old jeans. Yeah, basically. Very economic. Nicholas Williams, Harlequin. Correct. It is the Harlequin seat with the little triangles, sort of black and sort of grey triangles. The Harlequin. There you go. Did you look that up in the brochure by any chance? It's fine. So you have that point. Let's see if I can just pull down a little bit. We're not doing too badly. We're going through them quite easily. How far are we in? We're about 50 minutes in, so it should be another 20, 25 minutes, something like that. I don't want this to be ridiculously long. How much BHP does the ST170 Duratec engine have versus the 2-litre Zetec engine? How much more horsepower, brake horsepower, does the ST170 Duratec engine have versus the 2-litre Zetec engine? Remember, these two engines are the same engine, but the ST170 Duratec engine has a Cosworth head and a few little other bits and pieces. It's on your 2001 Galaxy C-Tech. Interesting. 45, 43, 70. $30. Right. It was around 37. The ST170, because it was called the ST170, people thought, oh, it's got 170 brake horsepower. Officially, it's 167. There are contradicting opinions about that, but 167 tends to be the factory figure. That's what was given in the book anyway. A Zetec engine will produce, a 2-litre Zetec produces 130. So they managed to eke another 37 horsepower from that engine by having a Cosworth tuned cylinder head and manufactured. Interesting. But some of you are not far off. Craig, hello buddy. So I'm glad to get enough. Oh, that's absolutely fine. That's no problem. Glad you could join us. Probably got about half an hour to go. We're getting through the questions, and I hope people have learned a few things. I certainly have by creating all these questions. So, what early colour begins with the letters AQ? What early colour begins with the letters AQ? It is an early Mark 1 colour, a very early colour, and was only available until the facelift, and then it was dropped, sadly. That might be correct, Veros. I possibly think that's the case. A lot of Ford engines were down-tuned deliberately. Adam, Aquafrost. Bang on. Straight away. I thought that was an easy one. AQ, Aquafrost. Probably the best colour for an early Mark 1 Focus. The best colour for Mark 1 before it was known as the pre-facelift, but the original. Probably wouldn't have looked as good on a facelift, I have to say, probably why it was dropped. Now, this is an interesting question, and it links in with another car I own. What well-known Ford engine powered the North American 2-litre models called the split port induction or split port 2000? What engine was that? What well-known engine powered the 2-litre North American models split port induction split port 2000, which is what it was known as? Luke, no. I would like to think that, but no, they wouldn't be able to fit that engine in the Focus. It was indeed the CVH, the venerable, I was going to say vulnerable, the venerable CVH that started life in 1981 was the last car to use that engine was the Focus Mark 1 in North America, and it lasted until 2004 when the Mark 1 kind of finished in Europe, but it kind of finished as well for the CVH in 2004 for some reason. I believe that anyway. It outlived, strangely, that engine, the CVH, was meant to replace the Ford Kent engine, which was known as the Valencia engine later on. It turns out it only outlived the Kent engine by 2 years. Ridiculous. But it did have a bit of a sort of blossoming afterlife away from Europe. In Europe, the CVH was stopped being used Mark 6 Escort sort of time. Replaced entirely by the Zetec engine. Now, essentially, the Sigma killed the CVH off completely because Ford could actually use, they had an engine for every type. So, you know, in the 90s, the Ford Valencia Kent engine was the poverty spec engine. And then the CVH was kind of the sort of median engine, and then the Zetec engine was the big engine. Then the Sigma came along and then kicked the CVH. They didn't need to use a CVH. The Sigma engine virtually kicked it out of existence. Craig, the Yanks got a 2.3 engine as well in the Focus. Correct. I'm not forgetting that. This was just a question based on the 2 litre. The 2.3, they certainly got that as well. The Essex 3 litre V6 was the best engine Ford built in Europe. Yes and no. It was the best engine at the time, and it probably was one of the best engines at the time. I don't think there was an engine that Ford built that was probably bettered by that at the time. Things changed quite quickly after that. So, yep, that was a bit of trivia. That's what links my Mark III Fiesta with the Focus Mark 1. Quite nice. Daz, most of it was left over from the weird Mazda hybrid Escorts that are the 1.9 CVHs left over in the States. Yeah, the 1.9 versions. And the CVH has a near identical mounts to the Zetec, so it would fit. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that. But there's a lot of, if you go on Google and type in like CVH, how to change a valve stem seal, which is why I had to learn with Ruby, you get a lot of videos about 1.9 CVHs in North America. So it's very, very popular engine over there. The big engine CVH. The biggest engine we got in Europe was the 1.8, which was not brilliant. It was put on Sierras to replace the Pinto because the Pinto couldn't pass the emissions anymore, but it really wasn't a replacement for the Pinto. It just wasn't suited. 1.6 was probably the biggest capacity it could do, in all fairness, but it was proven that they could go up to 1.92 litres and adapt it for fuel injection, and it would accept it. It was really good. Yep, we used to do a CVH with a Zetec head, and they were called the ZVH. Oh, I've heard of that conversion. Yes, the CVH and the Zetec actually share quite similar blocks, strangely enough. There was a lot that was shared, strangely enough, between the CVH and Zetec. The Sigma was completely different. It was a ground-up design. Is your Maestro a 1.6 S series? Not going off topic, but it is. Well, it's not mine. It's my friend's. And you're going to see it probably in an episode in 2 days' time. It's not mine, but I had the pleasure of driving it, and well, it's wormed its way into my heart straight away, and that's what cars do. I had an Advantage 1.6. They're very rare. There's only 2 Advantage Maestros left in existence, by the way. That's very rare. I switched the interior for Vanden Pla. Loved it. Oh, with the wood cappings and the leather seats. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Again, Vanden Pla. To be fair, any Maestro is very rare, and that was a rare car. That is a rare car that I've just driven. So keep watching for that one. Anyway, this is an interesting question. What rare additions were based on the 2-litre Zetec and tuned by Mountune? What rare additions were based on the 2-litre Z-Tech and tuned by Mountune? There's two answers. There's two particular cars here. They are Mark 1s. There's two particular cars. No, not the RS, Luke. Forget the RS. Definitely not. This is interesting. No. Anybody else? Rare additions based on the 2-litre Z-Tech and tuned by Mountune. They are not to everyone's taste. Don't know, but they had a separate brochure. Dazzy and Craig Shovlin, you are completely correct. It is the T190 and the T230. They did come before the RS, and they look somewhat akin to a Halford's modified bin job. To be honest, they're not to my taste. There is one that I'm aware about in the group, which I'm fascinated by because it's just so rare. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not to my taste, but at the same time, they are very. I don't know how many are left. Nobody knows. There are rumours about how many could be left. There was also the T130, the T150, the T250. There were more. But I think there was only about 4 or 5 cars probably sold of each, probably, maybe less. It depends how many people wanted to buy them. They did have their own separate brochure. Bellamy at Midnight, they did have their own separate brochure, and they're quite interesting. But the T190 and T230 were based on the 2-litre Z-Tech, and the T230 was the basis for the RS, believe it or not. T230 certainly. What feature? Sorry, before I go, Dazzy, was it a conversion to existing car or a special order new one? It was basically 3-door Focuses, but I had a lot of bits added on that were just really custom bits. They were unique to that car. The headlights were completely unique. The body kits were unique. It was almost like a custom order kit, maybe special order, like you say, but very unique. There was one recently discovered. I have seen that one. I think most of them actually exist. Strangely enough, I don't think they would have been banger rated. I think they would have been so expensive that they would have been kept, and people do have them. I don't think they'll be extremely sought after because they don't really look very nice. But it doesn't matter. They're preserved. That's the main thing. If they're out there, somebody needs to do that. Very max power. Yeah, they were. They very much were. So, next question. If I can find out where I was. What feature did a Mark 1 Focus not receive, but had pre-drilled holes to accept this feature? What feature did a Mark 1 Focus not receive from the factory, from the dealer, but have pre-drilled holes to accept this feature? I may give you a clue in a bit. Pre-drilled holes. It is to do with children. Adam Joe, once again, you have got the answer completely correct. It is Isofix child seat attachments. Perfect. There is a kit that you can buy for a Focus Mark 1 or Focus Mark 2. They'll both fit interchangeably, doesn't matter. Where you have a bar that you can fit and a retrofit and Isofix mounting for child seats at the back. They were pre-drilled from the factory. They are located behind the back seats, in the boot floor almost, and they are there. A cage to keep them in. Oh my God, Craig! Don't let your kids see that. Jesus Christ! Brilliant, brilliant. Isofix was, it wasn't a legal thing until many years later, but in 1998 manufacturers were starting to put them into cars, but there was no legal reason why they had to, but they did. How about that? There's a lot of cars with pre-drilled holes. I remember having the Rover P6. We'd been a 60s car, no rear seat belts, like most cars, pretty much every car from that time. But Rover pre-drilled holes in the parcel shelf behind the rear bench seat so that you could retrofit seat belts into them. How crazy is that? The holes are already there, and there's kits out there you can buy to put seat belts in the back of a Rover P6, a 60s classic. What? So manufacturers do think ahead of these things. I thought the Jimmy Savile boot attack. I thought a Jimmy Savile boot attack. Well, good to see. Oh dearie me, I can't say that word unfortunately because it makes me feel sick. Because I work with kids, it makes me feel sick. I love my kids, but they don't get in either of my focuses. That's their mum's car. Very wise. Very wise. When I was in a relationship, my partner had a Peugeot 207 and she had a couple of dogs. Labradors, beautiful dogs. But the shedding of the hairs got on my wick. They were in my car one day, my Focus, and I thought, I can't deal with this. So we decided that all the doggy driving was done in the 207. And we would accept one dirty car for one immaculate car. And that's the way it was. And she was happy about it. And so was I. Have you ever seen a Mark 1 with auto folding mirrors? They were sold in Japan. I was aware that there was some folding mirror modifications that had been done, but I didn't think it was ever a standard thing, especially in Japan. Wow, good grief, Marion, that's a very interesting point. See, this is a point in a quiz. We all learn something. Mirrors. Sorry, I wrote windows. Yeah, I know what you meant. It was the windows. And kid dog free. That's what the Jeep is for. Not windows, but the auto fold mirrors were Japanese. I didn't know they were a Japanese thing. That's interesting. The Japanese always like gadgets. Every car in Europe that is sold in Japan, they always want gadgets. They want air conditioning as standard. They want automatic gearboxes. They want power folding this and electric that. They love their gadgets. They love British and European cars, the Japanese. Well, they used to. Now we don't really create much that's worth wanting. And they make great cars. Why would the Japanese want anything else? I don't think we got it in Europe. Jim Farley needs to have a look at the model line in Europe. Lost the plot. We need a Focus and estate models. Oh, believe you me. They don't care, Nicholas. They don't care. Ford is not a company that I would class as a company for the people no more. It is a company that may go bust if they keep going the way they're going. But hey, I hope that doesn't happen. But you know, it's really, really, really sad. Right. What I'll come to that in a second. What was the... Oh, no, sorry. Got that wrong. Wrong question. What was the only engine that you could get with the factory fitted bi-fuel system? The only engine that you could get with the factory fitted bi-fuel system. It was fitted only to the facelift models, and when the October 2001 facelift models came out, this was offered until 2005 on the LX, Zetec and Gear. Correct, 1.8. The 1.8 Zetec engine was the candidate to use the LPG system. In those cars, you didn't have a spare wheel because that's where the LPG tank sat. There was only about 20 of them left in the UK in total, and I've not actually seen one in the flesh. I hope to God someone in the preservation movement preserves one, even if the LPG cannot function because we can't get LPG anymore. The LPG tank is fed from a filler on the left hand side. So the right hand side you've got the petrol filler, and on the passenger side well, in the UK that is, you've got the LPG fuel filler, and you have a switch on the center console that you can switch to switch the tank from LPG to petrol. And when you do that, the fuel gauge will move to whatever it is. So if you've got petrol and then you switch to LPG, it will then move to indicate how much is in the LPG tank. Incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. I nearly bought one, but I got a 2 litre instead. Well, you might have had a rare car there, Drew. Might have had a rare car there. There was a factory LPG one on Auto Trader, but I think it's gone now. Oh, I didn't realise that. The LPG ones have a different trip computer? Yes. Slightly different. There's one on Auto Trader for $14.95. You're joking. Oh, that could be an interesting buy. Very interesting buy. Especially, well, the problem is with LPG is that it makes the engine burn hotter. And that there is a problem with LPG cars, biofuel cars, in sort of this sort of area, 90s, noughties, where it was popular. And Ford were just trying it out. It never really worked because they never really trialled LPG again. It was just a thing they did to tick another box for the customers, to appeal to another audience for the Mark 1. Because this was a time, 2001, where they started to look at special limited editions like the Chick and the Ellie in particular. Ellie named after the women's fashion magazine, because they thought, oh, there's not enough women buying Mark 1s. We need to make women buy Mark 1s. So they just stuck an Ellie badge on the backside and advertised it in the actual Ellie women's magazine. No difference at all. So very interesting car. They tried it. They didn't do it on the 1.6 because the 1.6 Sigma was already an efficient engine. Economy wise, it was designed for economy and a bit of performance, but the Z-Tech was more performance than economy, so it was the wise sort of candidate. Why they didn't trial a 2 litre LPG, I don't know. That would have been even better, considering, because you would have the power of the 2 litre, but also the fuel economy with LPG. So I'm not sure why they didn't do it on both the 1.8 litre. Not sure. They modified the 1.8 engine valves and seats for the LPG versions. Yes, they would have, because it burns hotter. You need harder valve seats, and it is a common fault with a lot of biofuel cars that they used to burn their valve seats a lot, and then you need some new valves, and then you need to grind new valves in. Oh, it's horrible. And burning exhaust valves especially is a problem. It's just the way LPG burns in a combustion engine. But I've not heard of any failures, at least a very rare car indeed. I don't know the situation of LPG cars in the UK, but in Romania, people convert a ton of cars to LPG. So many people did conversions to LPGs. It was obviously a thing. They just never really commercialised it a lot. Not many people bought them. Anyway, next question. In a recent video of mine, this is... No. I've repeated the same question twice. That's another fault for the quizmaster. I think I deserve 0 points today. What fault on a Mark 1 has been so common since production it should be considered a standard feature? And I have answered this question earlier. What fault on a Mark 1 has been so common since production it should be considered a standard feature, albeit an unwanted one? These are all really interesting answers, actually. So I'm going to go through them one at a time. Marion, unstable idle? No, not at all. That would usually be down to dirty throttle housing or an idle control valve that needs cleaning out, but no, usually not. PCV hose collapsing daisy and boot leak. Pollen filter scuttle, which is common but not well, this is the thing, it's open to interpretation. Heat resistors failing, central locking playing up. The heater resistors fail because of the pollen filter scuttle seal leaking. So it leads back to that. The car locking itself, central locking faults. Rust, rusty seals, boot leak. The answer that I had in my head, which I mentioned earlier, thank you, Adam, boot leak. Well done. But I'll give you a mark if you said rust and rusty seals. Rust, yeah, fine. Scuttle seal, yeah, I'll give you a point for that. Not everything else, no. PCV hoses don't collapse readily. It takes them a number of years for that to happen. It's only so recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, that this has been a thing, because they've all got to that age where the hoses have got old and they need replacing with a genuine item again. They're not expensive. So rust or boot leaks. But boot leaks are definitely a standard feature, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. The best thing about a Mark 1 is that it had a perforation warranty of what, 7 years? Was it 7 years? What a joke. What fault? No, I've been through that. I'm repeating myself. Should actually highlight that. That's interesting. I bought a first Mark 1 I bought 3 years ago had the PCV hoses obliterated. That's because they've all got to an age where they're just obliterating. It's not a common fault, but it gives you the impression it is, though. But I can assure you it isn't. It's an age-related problem. It's a hose that you're going to have to change every 15 years, any between 10 and 15 years of age, I would say. So for all those people that have replaced that breather hose on all the petrol models, they all go the same way. That breather hose that really blows out, if you've replaced it in the last couple of years, you've got another 10 years of problem-free motoring without a problem. My dad had a W-Reg for 15 years and had to replace that hose 2 or 3 times on memory. That's really bad. They shouldn't go that many times. No, absolutely not. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I've had a boot leak on my Hyundai accident. It was Hyundai accident. I didn't read that wrong then. It was a pig to find the source using talcum powder and a hose. Yeah, that's a good trick, that is. It's a very good top tip, that is, for anyone who wants to find a boot leak, talcum powder, because you will be able to see where it's coming from straight away. How many years of rust protection guarantee did you get in the UK? In Sweden, it was 12. It was up to 12 in the UK, but it was originally 7. I believe that was the case. I might be wrong. Which colour, beginning with the letter A, was a launch colour available until 2001? Which colour, beginning with the letter A, was a launch colour which was available until 2001? Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Ignore that question. We've done that. Yeah, I do apologise. That was me actually going through that yesterday and not reading the questions I'd already added. This is really poor. Feel free to put a thumbs down to that. On the TDDI diesel models, what fault can cause a complete cutting out non-start situation? On the TDDI diesel models, what fault can cause a complete cutting out non-start situation? You could have a couple of answers for this, but the answer that I'm going to give you is the ECU pack that sits on the pump. That ECU pack links to the transponder key in the car and links to the pump. Without that working, it's coded to the transponder with the key. The key, the transponder ring, and that pump ECU are together. They come as a kit. And if the ECU kit, the ECU box on the pump fails, dead. And that is the most common fault on a TDDI as far as I've been led to beware. But fuel pump failure, stop solenoid, I don't think they have a stop solenoid. Might be wrong about that. Fuel pump failure, yeah, that can happen. But usually they just lose pressure and they can't idle properly, or they misfire at certain RPMs. The pump is coded to the key. No, the pump on the TDI models is coded to the key, the transponder wing and the key are linked together. Obviously, they send the same signal to each other. They have to be coded together. But the transponder ring is also coded to the ECU pack. Therefore, the pump is coded to the key, but through the ECU box. So it's not direct, it's through an ECU box. Same as the transits. Yeah, exactly the same. Exactly the same. It's the same engine, same configuration. It'd be exactly the same. There is no wrong answer to this next question. What is the Mark 1's most distinguishing feature? Correct, Bellamy. Very reliable indeed. Very reliable. There's no electrics on the TDDI pump on the Escort. That's interesting. I didn't know that. The dashboard, the triangles, the rear independent suspension. But that is how all Fords work, not just TDDIs. Yeah, in principle, yes, because it has to go through an ECU, and that's what links the key to start the car. Yeah, to be fair, that's a good point actually, in that respect. Styling, the overall design, it was a game changer at the time. The side window, rear window design on the 3 and 5 doors. The design, what part of the design? What is the most distinguishing feature in your opinion? There is no wrong answer to this, but it does generically look at bodywork. For me, the one thing that caught my eye, as when you're a small child, you tend to home in on things that look cool and different. And I remember being 6 years old and playing Colin McRae Rally in a Mark 1 World Rally Championship car and thinking, I like this car. It was the only car I ever drove. I didn't touch Subarus or any other car that I could play on that game. It was always the Mark 1 Focus. Always. Why? Because it just looks so good with those high level rear lights. They are unique. And you can tell Mark 1 off by them alone. And they are, for me, the most distinguishing feature of many. The front grille curves into the headlights. Well done, Marion. That is a very, very good observation. Not something everybody notices. And it is a very, very inventive feature where the headlights are shaped a little bit flat where the indicator is. On the corner of the indicator on a facelift version. Hard to say, I grew up with my dad's Mark 1 and I've had my own 20 years later. Nice one. Very nice one. I played the rally game and got a Kishio Focus Nitro kit style myself. Brilliant. Oh, goodness me. Lovely. I like that. Let neck. Although I didn't like it when somebody bought me a steering wheel and pedals, and I went from this to that, and I was like, how does a manual gearbox work? And you're a young child and you're trying to work out what are the gear, what gear am I supposed to be in? And I ended up working out why I couldn't get going, because I was trying to pull away in 4th gear, and then it was one of them like learning modes. I'd accelerate, I'd go through the gears, but then when I'd come to a stop or a crash on a corner, because I was still getting used to the steering and brakes, I'd like, why can't I pull away? And my uncle's like, drop it down a bit, you're in 5th, put it to 1st. Forza Horizon 5, just play with the Mark 1. I was the same. McRae was my hero when he signed for all my Ford. All my dreams come true as a lifelong fan. There you go. It's true. It's utterly true. It's utterly true. It was a match made in heaven. It's just a pity. The only thing I would say about a Mark 1 that was never cemented, as great as that WRC car was, he was not far off winning the championship with that car, but he didn't because he crashed it at the wrong moment. And it's a shame because that car would have been even more revered because of that win. But maybe it's revered because it was so close and it should have won. And then Colin went on to Subarus. Interesting. I always drove an Evo and Colin McRae rally. Dreadful. Go away. Evos. Wow, they were great as well, to be fair. I wouldn't knock them. Anyway, next question. Name one engine code for the Zetec 1.8 engine. There were 3 of them throughout production. Name an engine code for the Zetec 1.8 engine. They were 4 letters long. He missed his second world title because of that crash. Yeah. Yes, unfortunately. It wasn't to be. EGGW. No, that's not one I recognise on a Mark 1 Focus. You might be referring to a code for that engine on a different car. It's not one I recognise, Drew. There's 3 I've got in front of me. It does begin with an E, but the 3 letters are DAW. No. 4 letters. I had to do a bit of research to definitely find out my answers on this one. It is the 3 different ones. EYDB, EYDF, EYDH. One of them 3. EYDB, EYDF, EYDH. I only know FYDD for the 1.6 and FXDA for the 1.4. Correct? If I'd have asked that question, you'd have got it spot on. I could have done. And that, I've come to the end of the line, but I am going to ask another question. There were Mark 1 Focuses that were sold 2006, 2007, registered really late in the UK. But what month did Mark 1s in mass stopped being registered in 2005? Which month in 2005 were the last Mark 1s registered by dealers in mass? And remember, this was significantly after the Mark 2 came out. So there was a crossover. May 2005 is the answer to this date. I have not seen a Mark 1 Focus on an 05 plate, which is rare on anyway, registered beyond May. If you've seen one, then I haven't seen one, and it is a rarity. And that is when they became pretty much late registrations. I believe there might have been a call by Ford for dealers to basically shift the Mark 1s that had not been sold by the start of May. And the dealers managed to ship them out at stupidly low prices, probably, to get rid of all the excess stock and to have complete Mark 2 domination in the dealerships. There's a 5-door on an 08 plate. Junkyard has a 205, but I don't know the month. You can do research. If you've got the registration plate, go onto Vehicle Checker. You can check when it was registered, which is how I did my research. But the latest ones were registered. I think the last one was like the 30th of May. Something like that. 30th of May. But I've never seen one in June. But there probably will. There probably is. But I've not actually seen one. So this was May 2005 was the last month they were sold, pre-registered, well, registered in a large number. I say a large number. There has still been a couple of thousand of them. I saw an 05 plate LX the other day, but the majority local to me at 03 or 4. My Mark 1 was registered in April 2005. Ah, that's interesting. I know yours is an 05, so that was interesting. So yours is a month before the kind of the end. Some rare 54 plate Mark 2s, very rare. They were first registered, I think, at the start of December, maybe November. Probably November, actually, saying that. Yeah, very few. Right, we have got to the end of the quiz, and an hour and a half has elapsed, and I kind of thought, I think the amount of questions I've actually put down here, I mean, I could ask way more, but I thought these were quite interesting, quite geeky in some respects. I wanted to make the answers hard, and I honestly say, my overall winner, you're all winners, but Adam Joe, your knowledge has stood out above because you've answered some questions that actually I didn't think anybody was going to get. I certainly didn't know some of the answers to these. So I'm well done for joining, everybody. I just answered a few. Someone mentioned DAW. What's the difference between a DAW and DBW? It's the body style. It's the body style. I can't remember the exact detail. I see it everywhere, but basically it's between hatchback and estate, presumably. 3-door, 5-door, potentially. Well, the power of Google. Well, to be fair, I wouldn't aim power of Google. You've been cheating, Jason. No, to be fair, there were some questions that were answered today by Adam and a couple of people. There's no way you could have Googled that. You had to have the knowledge in your head because even this information on Google, like the passenger airbag delete, this information isn't even on Google. You try and search for that, you probably find one forum post on it. Thanks, Nicholas. Thank you for the rest this year. Have a lovely Christmas, Nicholas. Thank you very much for joining. Marion, Craig, don't worry. You can watch the first off when I log off, or you could just wind it back at your leisure. But I'm glad. 98 original. Rich, not sure what that refers to. So this year has been an amazing year for Mark 1s, and if you're in the Mark 1 preservation group, there are many great things happening. And I will finish this now. The quiz is finished, guys, so I will just ramble for a couple of minutes. There has been a post going around in the media from Autocar, which suggests that the Mark 1 Focus is the most scrapped car in Britain between January and October this year. And it was the most scrapped cars in the UK news. And the Ford Focus was at the top. And the picture was that beautiful S-Reg. Well, the earliest examples left in the Ford Heritage Collection, it was a picture of that. And everybody on the Facebook groups was like, oh, Mark 1s are dying out. 42,000 of them have gone off the roads. No. That's all Ford Focuses, not just Mark 1s. But the majority of them are Mark 1s. And the sad thing is that is still going to continue. The good thing about all of that misconception is that there was an awful lot of people on the forums making very interesting comments and very positive comments towards the Mark 1 Focus. In general, how much they enjoyed their previous ownership of the car, and they would maybe consider another one in the future, regardless of age-related factors. And I think that stands something. It's got people talking, that article, and I'm really pleased that the Focus was at the top of the agenda, because the most common car in Britain naturally is going to be the most scrapped, although I say the Fiesta's number one. But I was really chuffed with seeing that. So that was the news in the Focus Mark 1 world. But anyway, I am going to leave that ramble here. It's been an amazing year. There are many Mark 1 videos to come on my channel. The videos are going to be less frequent, shorter, and a bit more Ford directed next year. Mainly for the benefit of me getting a bit more of a life balance next year. So you may see less of me, but you will see some high quality videos, and that's what I think people want to see. But I will be trying to do as many live streams as I possibly can. But anyway, Merry Christmas, everyone. I've got to say, everybody Sorry guys, I'm late to the party. It was good fun. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Lots of comments coming in. Lots of this stuff would only be answered by having a Windows XP and 4 TIS, which is terrible to search. That's a good comment, Drew, actually. That's quite interesting. That is a good point, because you would be able to find about a passenger airbag delete on there. It would cover that. I said on the group, lost about that. It just means all of our cars, is the values of ours just went up. Not that I'd ever sell mine. Neither me, and I'm in the same boat as well. But isn't it nice to know that you've just gone on the ship before the ship has taken off and everybody wants a ticket, but the ship has already left the harbour? That's a dreadful metaphor, that was. Luke, I look forward to seeing you next year. Have a Merry Christmas, Adam. Well done, buddy. I'll look forward to seeing you two in the new year for 2 very important Mark 1 meetups in the UK. Have a very good night and Merry Christmas, everybody. And this is me out for 2023, and here's to our 2024. Have a lovely, safe Christmas. Enjoy, stay safe, and don't get into arguments with your family, because it's not worth it. You only have one life. Do not wreck it. I think that was a good piece of advice. Take care, guys.